in ASP, Associate Safety Professional exam curriculum, apart from practical application. So let us open our hearts and mind to learn from our presenter this morning. I believe we will all be happy at the end of it. Thank you all. Good morning.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Just a word of note. The person who just spoke is the chapter president of the American Society of Safety Professional, President Shehu Kabir. Thank you very much for that opening remark. Without wasting any much time, we'll just go straight to the reason why we're here today. Just to also note, this program is live streamed on YouTube, our YouTube page, ASSP NC. So please, for those of us who have opportunity to go on our YouTube page, please try to go there and make references. All right, please confirm you can hear me. I just want to be sure that I'm being heard. Okay, fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, good. So, just like we said in the opening remark, today's KSS is going to be very interactive. Having had a one-on-one conversation with the resource person, I was wowed, and I felt I couldn't sleep. In fact, it was as if I was dreaming about this KSS. I look forward to what we'll be bringing on table today, because I know that we'll be learning a whole lot in terms of prevention through design. A lot of projects are going on, and then one of the bedrock of every project is the design. And so if we don't get it right at that point in time, then that means we might not get it right at the end of the project. So that's what he's bringing on table. He's about to tell us everything we need to know about design and how we can prevent incidences while we are starting up the design of a project. I would like to read the profile of the person who will be taking us on this KSS. It's a privilege for me to be the one coordinating, while he's been the one facilitating in terms of resource person. He is not just anyhow person. I happen to know that, in fact, he's even my colleague. I would say a retired colleague from where I work. And so he's versatile in what he does, and he's very professional. His name is Mr. George Olomi. Mr. George Olomi is a master's holder and also an MBA holder. He's a freelance occupational safety, health, and environmental consultant, plant and process operation technician, and operator. Mr. George has spent 19 years in Nigerian gas processing and operations, and began his educational career with a national diploma in the industrial safety and environmental engineering technology from the Nigerian Petroleum Training Institute, PTI. So he also holds a bachelor's degree in information systems and management from the London School of Economics, University of London. Followed by a postgraduate certificate in environmental management from the School of Oriental and African Studies, University of London. He has masters in occupational safety and health management with concentration in environmental management with Columbia Southern University, Alabama, USA, and a master's of business administration, HOTS International Business School, Boston, USA. Mr. George, you're really loaded. There's so much, just a brief. In addition, he has the following professional training: NVQ Level 2 Plant and Process Operation, Shell Apply Prepare Lead HSE Risk Management, Maximizing Plant Supervision, NEBOSH International General Certificate in Occupational Safety, NEBOSH International General Certificate in Oil and Gas, and so many others. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great privilege to have this great man amongst us to share a well of knowledge. Welcome, Mr. George. Please, if you're able to mute your mic, please can you give a round of applause to our able resource person, Mr. George Olumi. Please give him a round of applause. It's not easy. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Welcome. Over to you, Mr. George.
Just 1 minute. I'm trying to see if, okay, good. Can you all see my screen now?
Perfect.
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay, thank you very much, Nandi. And it's quite impressive the way you handled everything. And the nice introduction by the president. And everyone who has to join us here, welcome one more time. And if you take a look at the picture on your screen, on the slide, we will all agree that this is a beautiful edifice and it's a nice sight to behold. But it is also a product of delicate balance of engineering, architecture, and safety. Now, safety in this context include construction safety and, more importantly, prevention through design, which is a precursor to construction safety. So, this knowledge sharing series is the number 2, as a matter of fact, and it promises to be enlightening as advertised. It's not something new. Many of us are already acquainted with it, to those who are already in the industry. But for some who are not, it could be a big learning point for every one of us. So what are we going to talk about today? What are the learning objectives that we will look at today? Prevention through design may be employed systematically in many projects that might present hazard. Projects like biological, chemical, mechanical, electrical, in every aspect of the industry. So today's discussion, we will be looking at the following areas. First of all, the overview of prevention through design. We'll also look at the concept and case for prevention through design. Why prevention through design? Then accessing prevention through design based on safety background. What are the safety risks that we have to look into? And finally, we will talk about the conclusion, where we'll mention what prevention through design is actually not. So let us start with the definition of what prevention through design is. As a matter of fact, in literature, many definitions we can find if we go there. And if we ask individually, people can give what they know about prevention through design. But let's look at this. I find this one by the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health in America to be very encompassing. And if you are with me, that definition says that prevention through design is, okay.
Sorry, please, if you're not talking, unmute yourself. I'll just have to unmute everybody. Then mute. All right. Hello, Mr. George, please.
Yeah, I've unmuted myself. Fine.
Okay, please.
So according to NIOSH, prevention through design is the addressing of occupational safety and health needs in the design process to prevent or minimize the work-related hazards and risks associated with the construction, manufacture, use, maintenance, and disposal of facilities, materials, and equipment. And this is why I love it. It covers every aspect of human endeavor in industrial level. And not one interesting thing here, if you can see my mouse, this definition addresses 2 important aspects of prevention through design: the design process, then the prevention or minimizing of work-related hazards. So the question is, when did prevention through design begin? A lot of us may look at it that is new, but evidence shows that it's been long, it's been there for a long time. The very first mention of prevention through design or insinuation of it, to those of us who read the Bible, could see it in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 8, where God told the Israelites, if you build a new house, you must also make a parapet for your roof, so that you may not bring blood guilt on your house because of someone falling from it. Interesting. And if you look at that, that's exactly what we are talking about. Prevention of someone dying while walking, as well as blood guilt. That was the earliest insinuation of prevention through design. But all through the ages, one way or the other, without being a systematic and streamlined discipline, prevention through design has been incorporated by humans. But let's look at how it re-emerged in the modern times. Now, it all began, the very first mention of it was done by the US National Safety Council in an accident prevention manual presented in the year 1955. But it was not until 1990 that the concept began to make serious inroad in the construction industry. This continued or followed as a result of a research conducted by two professionals. They are actually the big names in prevention through design, Professor Jermaine Hems and John Gamsey. These two gentlemen in 1990 followed this research and presented it. Then there was a slow acceptance of it, but it was steady, it was going. 20 years after, it finally gained the required momentum and recognition in 2003, following a publication at a symposium at the University of Oregon. It was until 2005 and 2006 that OSHA finally decided that, look, we had to do something, and they convened a design for construction work group of 10 professional organizations following the establishment of prevention through design in some industries like ExxonMobil and Mustard Engineering. So OSHA decided to legalize it, make it very important. So that's the brief history, the timeline, which is what we are benefiting now. And over the years, every industry, whether manufacturing, construction, in the oil and gas, to some prevention through design has been incorporated, except that in some cases, it's not really taken to the level it should be. So the question is, for safety professionals as we are, what is the safety management underlying prevention through design? Now, this slide shows an interesting aspect of it. It's a cyclical thing, you see, from 1, 2, 3, and 4, iteratively, every aspect of it has to be looked at. There are 4 aspects that prevention through design often look at: the aspect of sustainability, the aspect of collaboration, the aspect of integration of design in construction, and the management of change. Now, when we talk about sustainability, very often a lot of us perceive it from the standpoint of green economy or going green. But it's a broad subject, you must all agree with me. So a project with a comprehensive prevention through design carried out should be socially sound. How do we mean by that? Its impact on the society or on people should be positive. It shouldn't be something that those who live around the host community will have to complain. They will have to have an adverse effect. Now, one with proper prevention through design should also be socially, economically sound. Economic sound in the sense that the owners of the project should look forward for a return of investment, should be able to get the gain. It shouldn't be a project fraughted with a lot of litigations, compensation and payment of accidents and all of that, and loss of people. No, that shouldn't be the case. And one that is sustainable and fine should be environmentally friendly, in which case the footprint of the project should not be adverse to the environment. which is why many projects today we see people conducting environmental impact assessment, soil tests, and all of that. It's just to get a pure and holistic view of what the environment is and incorporate it in the design prior to execution. Now, collaboration, what interesting aspect of it is that prevention through design enables the design team, the project owner, the project managers, the workers come together, discuss things that will enable safety to be at the forefront, ensuring that the progress of the project goes on without much of all of these problems coming from incidents and accidents. So that collaboration is a forefront where they discuss, talk about things that the project has to do. So it is through prevention, through design, that all of these people comes to play. Now, when you move into the integration and construction, by following prevention through design, those who are involved, like the owners of the project, the design teams, architects, and engineers, are compelled to follow regulatory compliance. They must follow what the national body, in our own case here, what it requires, the Nigerian Factory Law and Act. How should this project go? Now, beyond here, professional bodies like OSHA, we want to look at that. The American ANSI, okay, we look at it, how does it follow there? Then it adds to the quality of the product because you are regulatory compliant, the quality of what you will deliver at the end of the day is going to be sound and beautiful. Then it prevents, is a prevention against litigations. So when you take out hazard from the early phase of the project, when they get into the executions of the project, much of the accidents will not be there. Companies will not be sued, owners of the project will not be sued. And if there are cases, you know that, look, this is where it occurred and this is how we are going to follow. And the last part is management of change. All safety professionals, as a matter of fact, are agents of change. So what does it involve? Because prevention through design brings this into focus. The senior management, the project team, the managers, supervisors, and employees come together to see what change that is taking place in the way job is being done, in the way construction is carried out, in the way things are manufactured. So when all of this put together, that shows beautifully a comprehensive safety management program that incorporates prevention through design, through all the value chain of whatever that is done in the industry. So the question everybody asks, because there are people who are saying, what the hell about this prevention through design? The question is, why prevention through design? Now, there are three, I would say, theoretical reasons why prevention through design is important. The number one is that the National Society of Professional Engineer Code of Ethics back in the US then says that engineers shall hold paramount the safety, health, and welfare of the public. Is very, very important. And I think it's not different from here. The Nigerian Society of Engineers does the same, as well as the Nigerian Architects Association. All of these are built into their code. Another reason back then when it has to be a permanent thing in the US is that the American Society of Civil Engineers Code of Ethics requires that engineers shall recognize that the life, safety, health, and welfare of the general public are dependent upon the engineering decisions they make, which is, in effect, the prevention they are incorporating in the design of whatever project. And we are not left out. While preparing this, I took time to look at the Nigerian Labor Act and Factory Act. These acts, in consonance, places an obligation upon employers, owners, or occupiers of a factory to ensure the health, safety, and welfare of employees within the factory. So these are some of the sound regulatory reasons why prevention through design has to be there. But again, we are all humans, we empathize, we feel others. So what other reasons should motivate us as engineers, as safety professionals, as leaders in organization, managers in whatever capacity, that we have to look at this in the design, in the dreaming of our project? The next slide I'm going to show you has a video, is graphic. Now, the graphic nature of it, many of us have seen worse in the industry today. but it's just for us to know that this is one of the reasons why in every endeavor we are involved as professionals, we have to look at prevention through design as critical. So let us play this video briefly so that we see what it holds for us. Okay.
Marica. No, baila, hermano. No.
Do you not agree that that's terrible? It is really that this is happening every day in our industry. So what role does prevention through design play here? In a typical excavation as this, a comprehensive prevention through design will incorporate all the necessary safety measures that will ensure the workers and the site are safe. So things like trenching sheet, adequate propping, box, the design into the kind of job that has to be done, the soil test to know the carrying capacity of the soil, the angle of repose, the excavation, what manner of things that has to be done, what sort of persons has to go inside. These are the things that prevention through design looks at the drawing board prior to going to the site. But this particular video we watched lacked that. And look at what the statistics has for us today, which is where it is appealing to our empathy that we have to do things in the right way. The statistics has it today, as we have in the industry, that more than 60,000 fatal accidents occur worldwide in the construction industry. And in a place like US, in 1996 alone, 1,000 construction workers died in the US, and 350,000 suffered disability. Now, in our own country, Nigeria, it is reported that 200 cases of industrial accident occur daily, and about 400 workers died in the power sector in the last 2 years. That is 2019 and 2020. It is situations like what we watch in the video that fuels these statistics, and which is why we have to look at prevention through design to be very important. Now, construction industry stands out as paramount in this case. That does not mean that other sectors do not share the same blame. So the next slide will talk about briefly how we could look at all those who are involved, the key players in ensuring that prevention through design plays out the way it should be. So here is the various phases. If you divide it, prevention through design is divided into 3 particular categories. First is the concept. The second is the design phase where the prevention through design comes in. And finally, the execution where we talk about milestone. However, in the design phase, you can look at 3 phases. 3 phases, phase 1, design phase 1, design phase 2, design phase 3. So let's look at each of these phases in their order. This is the first phase. Now, concept phase is the phase that the owners are beginning to imagine the project, they think about it, this is what we want to do, this is the way we have to go. Now, the primary responsibility for prevention through design rests on the shoulder of the project owner. The architects and engineers that the organization is bringing in to finally bring this dream into reality on paper. Who are the contractors that has to be there? All of these people will be involved. And what are the things they will talk about? At this point, it's time to begin to look at what are the prevention through design processes that has to be incorporated, then develop a checklist that you now start to say, this is what we do and what we should not do. A typical example in a very simplified form is if I am going to build a machine that uses lubricating oil, how do I prevent that when the lubricating oil stops or finishes, it does not damage the machine? I should have an early alarm. Okay, in that case, it is now considered like we have to build into things level gauge, we have to put pressures and all of that. That's the early consumption phase. Beyond this phase, the next thing that comes to play is the phase one of the design. This phase one is very, very important because at this point, the architect, the owners are beginning now to add all the facets of the safety that has to be involved. The construction manager who is going to handle the project is brought into picture. So what is discussed at this phase? They start finalizing all the design aspects to facilitate if there is need to make some changes and do things that are necessary. Then they now review the checklist of all the safety system built into place. Anyone acquainted with the turbines in the oil and gas knows that there's what they call the safeguarding system. That safeguarding system is a typical example of prevention through design, such that in event of any failure, the system should be able to gradually shut down without causing either problem to the materials or asset or harm to those who are around. Then they talk about the performance of things, of how the way the project has to be done. At this point, they start looking at things like pre-hazard analysis. Then after pre-hazard analysis, they apply things like the multi-attribute decision tools, which we all know as risk matrix. You now start to rate the risks involved and see where you can tolerate and which should not be tolerated. And you know the mitigating effect that has to follow. Now, beyond this phase is the next phase, which is the phase two. The phase two, at this point, again, the main actors remains the owners of the project, the architect, the engineers, the general contractors. Now, they use the checklist developed in the previous design to see further areas they have to incorporate safety. Then draft things like erections, or how would it be built? Is it a construction? Is it scaffold? Is it excavation? What are the things that has to be erected? Then after this, they now communicate the critical safeties that they have talked about in phase one and begin to dish it out to those who will be carrying out the job. Because at this point, they are gathering what is called the work package that the workers will use and go to the site. Now, after this phase comes the last phase, which is the phase three. One more thing, the only addition to the players in this regard are now the contractors, trade contractors, who are the suppliers. What are the things that they will supply to you for this project? So it's important at this phase that these people will be brought in so that they know what should be done. Because here, the prevention through design discourse will involve what are the safety constructability of the plan that has already been designed. Are there adequate measures put in place? Then they have to identify all safety expectations in all relevant documents. Identify all safety parameters to all subcontractors. Talk with them, educate them, enlighten them. Remember, all of these are done not necessarily before the execution, but behind the scene. That is why organizations will tell you, look, if you are going to go bid for this contract or you are going to get this contract, what are your safety parameters? How well is your organization in terms of safety and all of that, so that you understand everything being discussed in this regard. Now, finally, when this is done, then you go to the last phase, which is the execution phase. Now, the execution phase includes the groundbreaking, foundation laying, commencement of manufacturing and finished product. In this discussion, we are not talking more about that. It's only that is the milestone. But there is the interesting thing I want us to point out here. Let's go to this. If you notice here in the phase one design, 30% of prevention through design is incorporated. Now, phase two, 60% of it. Then phase three, 90%. So by the time you go to the execution, it's just 10. And why is that, kid? When you have incorporated safety in all your design up to 90%, that job is as good as safe. It's good enough. 10% is where now all those in the field complies with it. The safety professionals enforces all those safety rules. So it is very, very important that this has to be done. It's a typical of construction industry, but it's not limited to that, because in the manufacturing, we have exactly the same thing, where you have the design, the build, and maintenance and retirement. I'm not going to talk about this much because they are almost the same, but there is something I want us to look at, these arrows at the bottom. Do you notice that the ease of integrating safety is much more better, is at the highest point at the conception stage through the design. Now, as you proceed through things like the building and operation, for you to incorporate safety becomes extremely difficult because it means you go back to drawing board, you break things down, you want to adjust. So when you get up to the point where you are now in the retired phase, I see people are raising their hands. Just because of time, would you just hold on to your questions until we get there? So by the time you get to retirement of the project or the execution, you could do little or nothing in terms of integrating safety into it. At the same time, the cost of integrating safety is much more or less at the beginning, the conception phase. But when you are moving up to the execution phase, the cost now becomes very high. Think of a building where you fail to put fire ring main system, okay, hydrants and all of that. You did not design that into it. And suddenly when you are executing and building and you realize, hey, we got to do this, how would you begin to design all of this into the fabrics of what you've done earlier? It means calling back all those who design, you pay a lot of money and all of that. Now, all of this is finally elaborated in the next slide where it shows. Notice here, this slide, this graph is beautiful, right? High and low. At the conception phase, the ability to influence is high. We can influence, put prevention, safety in every aspect of it during the conception. But as we gradually move through the design, you see the ability to influence begin to drop. Because if you fail to meet the 30, 60, and 90, when we get to the construction, execution, and startup is as low as 0. So you cannot. In short, the project owners at some point will say, I can't do that. Let's just proceed. But at the same time, while it is low to influence, add all the safety facets to ensure that this project goes on well, is low from the conception. As you move up towards the construction and startup, you could see the cost. It's skyrocketing. It's going high. So which is why it's very important. Wherever we are as safety professionals, if we are privileged to be at the conception and the design of things, let us emphasize and add this to it. So how do we do this? How do we incorporate this in many projects? We all know this diagram, right? This is the hierarchy of control, where we talk about elimination, substitution, engineering control, administrative control, and PPE. In view of time, I won't talk much about this. Those who lay their hands on this slide will look at it. But let us know, in this cloud here, this is the best preferred option, eliminate and substitute. Whatever it is, at the early phases of the design, because of prevention through design, when you see hazard, things that may lead to problems, you design them out. When it is not possible, you do what? Substitute it. So prevention through design follows the same principle that hierarchy of control does, you know. It presents a very first level of risk, designing it out from the system. Then the next level, through viable substitute, you can take out the same risk. But beyond these two, we now go into things like adding controls, using things, equipment, and protective equipment, PPE. So, but then the 60, the 30, 60, 90 would have been achieved. So the 10% is where the administrative control comes in, maybe changing the shift pattern, changing the kind of way people carry out things, putting posters and all of that, ensuring that people wear their PPE and following the regulated and procedure for doing things like that. But the 90% would have already been taken care of. So this is a simple flow sheet, but I won't talk more about this. If you have your hands on it, in view of the time, I won't go into this. Take your time and look through it. It's very easy, self-explanatory. If you recognize this level of risk in the process of the design and is not acceptable, design it out or substitute it out, go to the next level. So I would just let us go and skim through this so that we will be on time. So, but this leads us to some examples. I want to show us pictorially some of the things that we do in the construction industry and how people should follow. So that's what this slide now talks about. Interestingly, this first picture, can you see that? This picture shows workers on a height. And below it, we see this, the soft landing thing. It is not something brought up while in execution. It was pre-planned. So prevention through design is proactive, it's not reactive, which is why they were able to incorporate this. You see this building of wall, see the worker ensuring that fall protection is there. And again, it should be able to have the carrying capacity, not just of the worker, but whatever is holding fort. And here is a typical one. Here you see the anchorage and anchor point design into it. Again, we see what we call the parapet now, fall protection as it were, ensuring that all those who will work in this situation are protected. While on site, the safety professionals there will ensure that they follow all of this as well as the engineer. Now, this is a typical of what we saw in the video. This is what should be done prior to that. Following the test, if the design, prevention through design is followed to the later, all of this would have all been taught out. And as it's being done, they put there to ensure that such we saw in the video would not happen. So this is how beautiful it is if we follow prevention through design in the way it should be. So finally, what are the benefits of prevention through design? A comprehensive prevention through design can mean a lot for everybody involved, as well as in the construction industries and the manufacturing projects. The benefits are huge, and what's the effort? Believe you me, it is in many ways. First, it is a reduction of site hazards, is a reduction of workers' compensation premium for the owners of the project because they wouldn't have to pay for everything. And who has been among those who have gone to tell a family, look, your family member unfortunately died, would you be a part of that? It's a terrible situation to go there. Then prevention through design improves productivity and quality of the product that is finally churned out from whatever is there. Is it a building? Because you are complying, you're following to the later, you follow all the safeties and things are done, the final product is beautiful. Okay, is it manufacturing the product you need, meets customers' expectation and is able to give them the joy, the benefit, the value for the money they paid? Now, prevention through design results in fewer delays in project progression due to fewer accidents. That's self-explanatory. Anytime there is an accident on site, like the one we saw in the video, first of all job is stopped. They will go into rescue. After rescue, investigations start, debriefing. So they possibly between 1 to 2 or even more weeks is lost. So the project is delayed. The prevention through design encourages collaboration between the owners, the designers, and the constructors. They look at it together. So when an engineer is coming back or a safety professional is saying, look, this is not adequate, the engineer does not say, oh, come on, you won't say that. But he will say, yes, I understand. This is what we are going to do because he has the picture, she has the picture. Then if you take it back to the owner where they had to make some adjustment, bring in some money without creeping into the project, the owner is not going to say, why are you bringing me this? Because of prevention through design, the owner could even add miscellaneous in the budget so that they could use this to help and solve situations that comes. Now, it improves operations and maintenance safety. Many of us are in the industry today, we know, typically of the energy industry. With prevention through design, you bring in your maintenance schedule, things that has to follow. When some parameters aren't working the way they should work, is already a red flag telling you things are not working the way it should be. Because there have been a prevention to that effect designed into the system. Hence, those who operate it knows. Then it ensures in terms of building the safety of the occupant. I think we have heard the story of the Florida building collapse and the terrible thing it did. We have had our own shares in this country. Now, investigation reveals that there were a lot of safety flaws. there were a lot of safety not taken into consideration during the process of the design, things like underwater, the groundwater seepage into the building. Now is beginning to reveal. Those are the things prevention through design would affect. And prevention through design improves the longevity of the building or the equipment. And finally, it improves the bottom line through sustainability. No owner is building any project for fun of it that after 5 years, it collapses, nothing is working anymore, and all the money invested is gone. The idea is that it should last, if it's possible, to time indefinite, so that he recoups all the money and now begin to look at doing something different. So these are the benefits of prevention through design, and how lovely it is that we all have to cherish this. And finally, as a way of concluding, I want to make this point clear, because once I was going through those two professors' write-ups and articles, I saw this categorically mentioned clearly what prevention through design is not. Prevention through design does not mean that designers or architects or engineers or project managers have role in construction safety during construction. No. The engineer does not become the safety professional. He does not police, he does not enforce when the job has already started executing. His job or their job is at the beginning. All they do in the meeting and see, look, what are the statistics showing? If it is going up, what are we not doing well? Are there a lot of incidents or not? But the safety guys on site, along with the guys, foremen and all of that, ensures that things goes on. Prevention through design is not an endorsement for a legislation for architects or engineers or project managers to design for construction industry. In their own work ethics, safety is included. The only thing in this case now is that they have to come to a common table, discuss it together, and be on one page to ensure that these things work as it should be. Now, it is also not an endorsement that designers can or should be held partially responsible for construction or manufacturing accident. No, this is not what prevention through design is. If there is an accident in a work site, proper investigation should be carried out. And based on what the findings are, you could not say this is what went wrong. It's because of design, it's because this was not done in the proper way it should be. But it's not an endorsement that, oh, we are going to hold any building that collapses, any product that did not go well, we hold those who designed it. Finally, prevention through design does not imply that designers, architects, or those in the profession, those professionals always have the knowledge or are equipped for construction safety. Construction safety is a discipline of its own. These people may not have in-depth knowledge of that, but they have the knowledge of what they do. So put together, the essence of talking about prevention through design does not include all of this. Few things to take home today if we are going to forget anything. There are 3 phases of prevention through design. The conception phase, when the owner is beginning to think about it, he must or she must, if it's an organization, think that safety has to be included in the design. Then all the phases of design, it has to be added. It has to go 30%, 60%, 90% of all safeties must be covered before execution. And finally, the execution has to be done, which is about 10%. Remember, if we fail to include safety from the conception, from the beginning of the project, putting it at the end when it is being executed is very expensive and it's almost impossible. So it's vital that we had to follow this process. And in that way, we enjoyed what we go home to our families, our friends and our brothers who left home in the morning and have gone to work, we come back home satisfied, they have their pay and enjoy it. So that's what it is, gentlemen and ladies. This is what I have for you. Thank you very much. I can now welcome questions and answers.
Thank you, Mr. George. Thank you so much. This was so educative. I must confess, very educative. A lot of comments already in the box. People can't even wait to ask ask questions and all that. Thank you once again. Thank you very much for this well of knowledge that you have been able to transfer to us. Thank you so much. So before we start taking questions, I would like to use this opportunity to recognize the presence of some of our global persons who made out time to be present in this our KSS, despite the huge time difference between us here and where they are in the States. I'd like to recognize the presence of Mr. Ashok Galafati. Thank you very much for making our time to be here. Thank you. Really appreciate that sacrifice. And I also like to recognize the presence of our regional IX area director, the person of Mr. Kamil Abiodun. Thank you very much. Thank you. And others who are my friends on LinkedIn who made our time, who are not in our own country. Thank you so much. I can see a couple of you. I recognize you. Thank you so much. I guess I really believe you're really enjoying your time. Yeah, Mr. George has pointed out a lot of things. Especially that video I watched. I saw a comment. It's not a fixation or whatever. It's not something, a makeup video. It's happening live. Somebody put it on the chat box that it even happened in his project site in Lagos, somewhere in Lagos. So what you are learning here are realistic and not just one person who just decide to make up something. These are realistic, and please, we should always try as much as possible to ensure that we consider safety first in anything we are doing, so that our families and whoever is working with us can be able to go back home every day when they come back, when they come to work. Thank you once again, Mr. George. So at this point, we'll start taking up questions. I would like those of us who have raised up our hand. I see the first person who raised up his hand is Mr. Bolayo. Please, can you just unmute? Oh, so many hands. Oh, Jesus. Can we take all these hands? All right, we'll try, but we'll take it briskly. Please, straight to the point. Yep. Straight to the point, please.
Yeah. I want to comment. My name is Bola Kamil Dinabiodi, the area director for Area 2, Region 9. I want to commend the speaker for bringing this topic up and for emphasizing on this topic. One of the graphical representation which he delineated the breakdown from the design phase to the building and execution of the project site is an area which I want him to really flip back to, where I want him to say what is his own position. But towards the end, he was able to say that safety should be involved in the design phase all the way before construction. But from my experience, what I would like to share, and that should be a takeaway from here, as safety professional, in most cases, we are engaged towards the execution phase. And when we are engaged, is either we are handed over an HSE plan or we are asked to develop an HSE plan. And what I've seen that plays out in the industry, professionals don't request for the detail of the contractual agreement for them to really know what has been spelled out in the contract in terms of safety implementation on this contract. And in most cases, most sponsors always hire risk managers that had little or no knowledge about safety. They are only into the financial risk. The incident which I share with you is a life experience. I was invited based on the fact that we made a business case awareness for safety compliance to a particular consulting firm. And this particular safety case played out to now happen on site. And he was also lucky as a structural consultant. He will have been caught up in the excavation collapse that happened. Space was not enough in that particular project in VI. And they were actually arranging the steel rebars about 15 tons at the edge of the excavation. And the steel work is going on in the excavation. So that weight actually collapsed the wall over the guy, and the 16 tons went on the head of these guys, and they all died. It happened right there in Lagos. And I was invited to be part of that discussion to see what they want to do forward. The risk manager is not looking at what safety intervention they need to put in place now. He was looking at the cost is not available as against the value for life. As safety professional, we need to know when we have to walk away, and we need to know what we need to require for us to deliver on any project, which is an area which I want the presenter to really, really hammer on what the takeaway is. What are the tools as safety professionals should we request for when we have this towards execution phase and we are time? And thanks for the presentation.
Okay. Thank you very much. Can I react to that, Nandi?
All right. Okay. You go ahead. I think that's like a feedback, but okay, just do it.
I'll just do. Oh, okay. All right. I can share that later, but let me talk about things. That was a very nice one. Your observation is very, very correct. I think the problem we have here, particularly in our country, is that oftentimes safety is regarded as not important. Now, there are two aspects of safety in our profession. We have them as specialists and generalists. Now, who are the specialists? We talk about the safety engineer. If you look at some adverts and employment or onboarding process, they will specify safety engineer, and they will specify safety officer, safety supervisor. Now, the manager could be, a safety manager could be a combination of both engineer and a generalist. So what we are requesting is any project that is designed in the right way should be safety engineer. A lot of noise at the background. Can someone help us, please? So if that project is international standard,
please, if you're not speaking. All right, Mr. George, you can unmute yourself.
Okay. So if that project has to meet international standard, in the design phase, safety engineers has to be involved. They have to be incorporated. This is different from the safety guys who will be on site, which is why the specialist ladder, the safety engineer ladder, is a separate one. Oftentimes, safety engineers, you see them as either mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, chemical engineers, whatever industry, construction, engineering, and all of these are, what happens is that coming from the root or the foundation of their course or career, they now pivot into safety of that aspect. These people have to come to table. When they come to table, they bring in their professional knowledge of what is being done and bring in safety into it. That will forestall things like that. So when that is done, a package is prepared. That package is now used in the phase 3 that I showed you. It is now shared by the rest of the safety personnel who will now go into execute it. Other engineers who are involved will look at that package. But where this is not implemented, you have the case you are just painting for us now. So important thing to take away is that big companies are doing it. I can tell you in this country, multinationals, or even now that many of the Nigerian indigenous companies are coming into the energy sector, they are beginning to apply that. You see, safety engineers are employed. They are there to work with other engineers in other disciplines to come up with this before a final package is now left and taken to the work site for execution. I don't know if I'm able to make a point to what you talk about.
Thank you, Mr. George. Thank you for that response. So we have a lot of hands up and a lot of questions, and we'll try as much as possible to see how we can wrap that up quickly. Mr. Festus, you're next, and please just make it quickly and straight to the point. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, the presenter. You've really done a lot of justice to the presentation. I must actually commend you for this detailed information. When we talk about prevention through design, I know we can't overemphasize the importance. And my own is going to be 2 contributions and very quickly 1 question through this presentation. Yeah, I'm very glad you actually spoke about prevention through design tied to sustainability. And I believe this is an area that a lot of people are actually getting it all wrong. You've made a valid positions as relates to what it's all about. But I just want to maybe add 1 or 2 voices to that, because when we talk of design, it has major leverage, the right thing to do and the smart thing to do. But for me, I'm looking at it that when we talk about this PTD as it relates to sustainability principles, few things must actually be considered. One is the need to make decisions not just based on initial criteria. What I mean by initial criteria is basically what you just have to put on the table at that material point in time, but criteria over the entire life cycle of the product and facility is actually very, very important. Then secondly, we need to design for construction and maintenance safety, not just occupant safety. We have seen a lot of persons, even during the preparation, design, and construction phase, you are able to deliver and nothing happens. How about maintenance? Like just like an ice scraper building, and you need to maintain. Have you actually considered the maintenance safety when it comes to that? Why you are doing the design constructability, as it were. So all these things are actually very, very important. And the world now is actually going global in terms of sustainability. So we cannot just let that be taken even away from prevention through design. Then the second contribution, it has to do with the design and construction, the execution phase. We have seen a lot of things that actually happened during the execution stage, just like Camille has rightly said. It has to be the disconnect between the design phase and the execution phase, because you can't tell me you've designed maybe to deliver like a manifold, and you've not put into consideration the capacity of the crane that is going to carry it. And when it comes to execution phase, you see a lot of people running helter and skelter and not knowing what to do. These are all the things that need to actually come into play. So my question is this: what is actually the Nigerian National Society of Professional Engineers doing? Because you agree with me that we have seen a lot of collapse here and there, buildings here and there, even in Nigeria. And from your presentation, one of the reasons why prevention through design is engineers shall hold paramount the safety and health and welfare of the public. So what are the bodies actually doing to serve as deterrent to this kind of situations that we are finding, most especially in Nigeria in recent times, where you hear of collapse of building and what have you? So that's my question. I really appreciate this all important presentation. Thank you very much, Mr. George Olomi. You've done greatly well. I appreciate. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I love the facet, the aspect of the maintenance. I mean, you cannot divulge maintenance from safety. You can also not separate maintenance with respect to prevention through design. Actually, where it is done proper, there should be in the design phase a place for scheduled maintenance. In the design phase, there should be routine maintenance added to that. We all know those who are in the maintenance sections or department, you see at so point in time, this has to be done. They are not just doing it because they want to create job, because the prevention that is incorporated in the design requires that at so hour, if a motor or a pump is running, it has to be shut down. They have to look at the lubricating oil. They have to look at all the impellers, or is it compressors, which is why we have this thing, total turnaround maintenance and all of that. All of these are built into the system. So that's what the design comes up. But sadly, in terms of smaller industries or companies, this may not really follow through. I believe that many of the big names are all following that, and it has to be incorporated. But if you are in a place where this is not being done, go through the ladder of your bosses, try to let them buy into the idea and incorporate it. Like I said in this slide, all safety professionals are change agents. You must be a change agent. And that change agent includes changing the culture, the mindset, the thinking from the top to the bottom. Now, with respect to the Nigerian Society of Engineers, actually, I'm not in a better position to talk about that in the sense that that's a professional body and I am not really a member in that regard. So I don't know if anybody amongst us who is a member and has something to add to that, you can add. But from hindsight, I believe that this code, this kind of principle, the ethics is also included in their write-up, and the onus falls on them to follow it. If someone is in the audience, the person can add to that effect.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you. So let's just make it quickly. Mr. Wadens, over to you. Your question.
Okay, good morning, all.
Good morning, sir. We can hear you.
Okay. My name is Winadum Dennis Uwe. Let me first of all thank George Olomi, my personal colleague and a friend, for this discussion this morning. I think this came at the right time because across the country, most businesses tend to look at profit and just dump safety within the drains. They fail to understand that if we don't initiate with safety in mind, we can no longer be able to execute projects safely. There are a lot of collapse that has happened within this period that are tied to the fact that safety wasn't considered when those projects were initiated. And that gives us a lot of concern and challenges. So let me once again say thank you. And for those of us who are on the call, let's take this message home, spread it a bit outside our scope, our space here, so that we can see how people can buy into this. Let's give them the value that they can derive from integrating safety into the initiation of a project. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Winadum. That's like more of feedback. I really appreciate that feedback. Next person is Mr. Sani Usman. Please, just straight to the point, make it brisk and sharp. Thank you.
Yeah, good morning. To begin with, I would like to... Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead, sir. We can hear, but just make your sound a little bit louder. It's kind of faint.
To begin with, I would like to thank the presenter for this educative, informative, and interesting presentation on prevention through design. Mine is a question. I would like to know the relationship between prevention through design and hazard, because I've understood that prevention through design takes away hazard at the design stage of the project. But HAZOP also does the same. So I just want to know the relationship between the two. Thank you very much.
Okay, that's a good one. There's something I'm looking at here. If you look at this first phase of the design, okay, this first phase of the design talks about 4 bullet points, one of which is the performance of pre-hazard analysis of the project. Now, underline that statement, pre, in other words, proactive, prior to. So is a scenario playing thing. What if this happens? What if this situation goes like this? What should we do? What should we not do? Now, that's what prevention through design is. It lays the foundation that for the hazard, if you want to say it, when eventually you go into execution. Because what happens in terms of hazard is, I'll share another slide before I make that comment. Look at this. It's an iterative thing. Now, hazard, while the job is going on or things are going, is to look at what has been built in, what is happening on the ground, Are we following that? Are there new things to be added? How do we amend that in relation to risks and hazard that you are finding there? Remember, in construction or in execution of project, hazard is fluid, is organic, it evolves any moment in time. No one particular pre-hazard analysis will be able to gather all the scope of things. By the way, we are dealing with humans who are not predictable and things changing very fast. So what prevention through design will do is that it looks at this before the onset, look at the proactive aspect. What should happen? What if this situation? Now, when you conduct the hazard proper, the hazard is a confirmation of that prevention through design and addition of newer things that are evolving while the project is being executed. So that's their relationship. They work side by side, intertwined. Some persons will say the line between them is blurred, but if you look at it clearly, you could see a little bit of distinctions coming from both ways. Thank you. Am I able to make a point? And someone can even add if need be.
Yeah, I may just want to quickly add to that, that basically is a subset of the prevention through design, as it were. So when we talk of ASOP, you know, it's actually a subset of it. But when we talk about prevention through design, it's all encompassing. A lot of things is involved. It involves cost, it involves materials, it involves the top management, it involves a lot of key personnel and what have you. So basically, just like Mr. Lomi has rightly said, so that is the disparity in terms of that, actually. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Festus, for that addition. Please, for those of us who have asked our questions and our hands are still up, please, can we just put them down so we know the ones that are yet to ask their questions? Mr. Taufik Shitu, over to you, please. Can you just do it quickly and straight to the point?
Okay, good morning, everybody on the call. Very good one, very insightful presentation from our former colleague, George Olomi. So, of course, my questions are actually around ASOP. Somebody has already, asked that, and a lot of clarity have been brought to it. But that being said, I just want to make a clarity on that PTD, that prevention through design. Just to ask whether we have an element of gap analysis during the operate phase to identify any residual risks so that we can, bring them to our lab as low as practicable, reasonably practicable. So that's just my question.
Wow. What has happened? All of you guys popped up. I am really, really elated. Thank you very much, Taufik. I heard from Wei. I've seen Chinedu and so many other persons. Honestly, that's the truth. Let's look at it. Let's be very frank. In the safety profession, risk assessment is iterative. It's a continuous thing. It never ends. So you have to check again and again, because if we go back and sit down, the tendency to become lax and relax is there. So which is why on the site, the people whose responsibility it is to ensure the safety of workers don't go back to the office and just sleep off. So it has to be done. So going to your question, every time checks are done, audit, inspections, and things like that done. The idea is not just to ensure that they are complying and they are doing things. The risk assessment involved or hazard assessment is that are there new ones that were not included in the design? Like Festus said, the prevention through design encompasses all of this, but it does not pick up everything in its entirety. So new development that comes up is also a knowledge building. You can add that to what you have. Subsequently, in other projects, you will look at that. Look, we didn't consider this in the past. We will have to add this. So it's a continuous thing. It never stops until that project ends. And believe you me, with the way it is going now, which is the green economy, safety goes beyond after execution to the use and finally to the retirement of the product. So what is it when the company has finished? They have to decommission, They had to break down. Even after the commissioning and the constructing of all the equipment, there are years left to monitor things there. What are they? Are there radiations? What is happening to the soil and all of that? In all these phases, hazard risks are assessed and built into a comprehensive package, which is why companies in the industry who have done this have a wealth of knowledge to really showcase for.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for that feedback, that response. I have only one more hand, Mr. Show. Mr. Show, you're the president. Please just permit us to hold you on for a while. Let's read a couple of questions from the chat box before you ask your own question.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. I should go on.
Okay. No. Let's read from the chat box first. So this one, Dr. Tiwil Otua is saying, thank you so much, Mr. George. Thank you for the presentation. I noticed that most of the workers I treated as a result of accidents in project sites, after a long history and evaluation, it boils down to insufficiency in safety measures at the level of construction design phase. As a result of this, workers keep losing their lives. Thank you for addressing this in your presentation. So this is just like a feedback. Thank you so much, Doc, for that feedback. Okay, we have more feedbacks. Just trying to go which one we have a question. Okay, we have a lot of feedbacks. Okay. Okay, so it's more of feedbacks. It's more of feedback. So over to you, Mr. Shehu, for your question.
Okay. All right. Thank you, coordinator. Thank you also our presenter, who is a professional member of SSV. Mine is just to add on to what you have all said. It's an experience that I have shared. I wanted to share it with all of us. I was in Saudi Arabia for Hajj ritual. That was in 2015, September. It was a terrible experience that we had. There was a crane collapse, which killed almost 107, and also about, I think, 230 injured. And this crane was stationed in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia inside the Holy Mosque. And there was a strong investigation when the incidents happened, because, you know, Saudi Arabia, they are so serious in tackling human rights and everything on what regard to any incidents and fulfill. So they dig into the incidents, and they were able to identify that when they discussed with the engineers that were held in the construction, they invited the engineer from the Leiber crane from Germany. He just reported that the crane was erected and in an extremely professional way. So they were not being able to identify what was the cause of that incident, because they have properly erected the crane and everything, but along the line, the incident happened. And it was later they were able to understand that the strong wind, while the crane was put in that particular place, there was a wind, and they discovered that since around how many days or something, there was that kind of a wind from the sun or something like that, that what has led to that one. But along the line, what I'm trying to say here is, in fact, they have expressed all the design, all the necessary things to which it is, because based on his comments, the engineer said that they have put it in an extremely professional way. But along the line, it was that wind that has come up to wash it off. So in that regard now, what I wanted to add here is our engineers here and everything, we can see that we can do all the necessary precautions, all the measures to be able to go through things. but suddenly weather or other things can come off. So in that regard, now I want to urge our professional engineers in Nigeria and everyone that we should take note of all these kind of factors, particularly weather and the rest. Because like sometimes I used to imagine when I see so many things in Lagos, that collapse of the building now, I'm thinking that, I say, is it due to the cost of ocean or something like that? So in my own opinion, I am just trying to add to this, and let us continue to go through these kind of incidences that happens in the world, and we can be able to combine it and add it to our own country so that we can have a means of identifying and how to find solution to those problems. Thank you very much.
Thank you, President. That's good feedback. Thank you. Thank you so much. You agree with me that today has been very interactive and very educative. A lot of learnings have come out from here, and so it's just for us to take a step back and assimilate what we've learned and try to implement it in our areas of expertise, so that we'll continue to ensure that lives are saved and then we all go home safe after work. Thank you once more, Mr. George, for the opportunity to bring you on board to be able to share your knowledge with us here on this platform. Thank you so much. It's our culture that when we get resource persons to come and share their well of knowledge on our platform, to actually recognize them with our certificate of recognition. I'll use this opportunity to indulge my able regional VP, Mr. Camille, to help us present the certificate of. Hello, please, if you're not talking.
Please, colleagues.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Apologies.
No problem, no problem. So please, Mr. Camille, if you're on call, please kindly present this certificates of recognition to our resource person. Thank you very much.
Hello? Sec. Okay,
Hello.
let me just say one thing. Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Okay. Is Mr. Kamil around?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, go on, sir. It's all right. That's one.
Are we displaying the certificate now?
Yeah, can you see it? I've displayed it.
Copy?
Can you?
I'm not seeing it.
It's displayed.
Okay.
I can see it.
Okay, I can see it now. On behalf of ASSP, Nigerian chapter, and on behalf of Region 9, Area 2, I want to commend I'm presenting this certificate of recognition to Mr. George U. Olumi for bringing us back and refreshing all safety professionals in the area of prevention through design. It's a real knowledge sharing, and we have also all picked something that we want to take away from here. And for this effort and putting together this, the American Society of Safety Professionals, Nigerian chapter, and the entire executive, they made fit to recognize this effort from your end. And we want to present this to you as the speaker on prevention through design during the knowledge sharing series second for this year, ASSP year for the new ESCO 2021-2022. On this day, August 21, 2021, I want to say congratulations to Mr. George for making this happen, and it's an honor for me to be presenting this to you. It's really a good time for me, and I believe every professional member here on this call, and also visiting professional who is looking forward to join the ASSP, we really appreciate that we stand for the values of ASSP on the advocacy of safety around the globe. Thank you very much, Mr. George Olome, and we look forward to see you more in subsequent section. Thank you. Over to you, host.
Nande, can I say something?
Yes, go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. Isn't the first time though, but it's an honor to be represented in this way. And generally, I want to say thank you for the turnout. Thank you for the organization, between the president, Nando to be particular, who has been in touch, and all of those who made this work. And more importantly, to the distinguished audience who I know from their various backgrounds and experiences can identify and relate with what we talked about. Is an impressive thing. have also learned from a couple of comments that people had made, and quite impressive it has been. We will be seeing more of ourselves as we go. I think the Nigerian Safety, American Society of Safety Professionals, Nigerian chapter is growing based on what the last ESCO and where we are going. I think the sky, they will say, or beyond the sky will be our limit as we move on. Thank you very much for everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Oliver. Thank you, Mr. Camille. You're looking very fresh. We'll come and hijack you where you are. All right, thank you for coming through. Thank you. It's always a privilege to have you around. On this note, thank you everybody once again. Would like to wrap up, and I will yield the floor to my able treasurer, Mr. Festus Orekpo, to give us a closing remark as we end this program.
Hello, sir. Before
Festus,
the closing remark, hello. Sorry.
Yeah, we can hear you, President. Go ahead.
Yeah, before the closing remarks, I would like to remind all our members, thank you for coming this one. We have our next webinar coming up on 28th, the same this month. This webinar is international. It's going to be held by presenter from the global, Mr. Tom Kramer. So we like you to join on that very date on 28th. Take note of the dates. And also after that, by next month of September, still we have our upcoming WISE seminar, webinar too. So please take note on that before that. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Please, 28 is next week Saturday. Thank you.
Yeah, next week Saturday we have the webinar from the global. Yeah, a presenter. It's still under August knowledge sharing. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much, President. For those of us who don't know what WISE is, WISE means Women in Safety. So that's it. Over to you, Mr. Festus, for the closing.
Excellent.
Yeah, thank you very much, professional colleagues, and as many that have joined us in this knowledge sharing series 2. Without much ado, you all agree with me that it has actually been a very, very insightful and educative series, and this is all what we do. And I want to believe each and every one of us, we have learned one or two things that we can actually go back to and affect our various organizations. There's nothing much to say than to just thank each and every one of us, most importantly, Mr. George Olomi, for that wonderful presentation. He has actually shared his knowledge, and we are grateful for having you and actually honoring us. Without any doubt, I can say we've all learned a lot from this presentation. Also, our thanks has to go to Ashok and Camille for actually taking time out of their busy schedule to actually be part of this. And I must also appreciate our IPP, Mrs. Mercy Refo, who has been here even from the beginning, even till now, and to all other professional colleagues. So thank you very much for this meeting. And just like I said, on the final note, the onus is on us as safety professionals, wherever we are in our various disciplines and in our various organizations. We must actually lend our voice. It is very, very important. Safety has moved away from the way it was before, and each and every one of us, we need to be a change agent. And for us to be a change agent, you must actually be involved. And these are some of the areas which you agree with me that it can actually make us to be involved and affect our organization. So thank you very much for this meeting, and see you in subsequent meetings. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Just wanted to note that we went live on YouTube. So those of us that missed some part of the presentation, please, you can always refer to our YouTube page for the full broadcast. And our resource person, this certificate will be emailed to you through the secretariat. Thank you very much. God bless you. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody.
Thank you and bye.
My president.
Thank you very much.
Engineer Camille,
you, Treasurer.
How are you?
We appreciate you.
Thank you, everybody.
Mr.
Engineer
Ashok,
Camille.
we appreciate you.
Party, good to have you. Mrs. Mercy Refo, good to
Thank
have you, man.
Thank you, Abi.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
President-elect, even though I can't see
Thank you.
My secretary. Well done.
Camille.
Everyone,
Good
thank
morning.
you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Bright,
Mr.
you are at work.
The office, eh?
Yes.
You are at work. Good to have you.
Yes, I'm still on board. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
That's nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hello, my delegates. Mr. Green, it's quite some time. I've been trying you.
I've been around now.
Thank you. I see all of you. Joseph, all of you came out. I couldn't believe it.
Yes, George. I've been enjoying myself with the lecture. Ross George, good to hear from you.
Thank you. Eh?
Mr. George.
I don't see your face now.
Want to do or afterwards we will discuss?
Yeah, that's my
Mr. President, good morning.
Mr.
Good morning,
Lobby.
Mr. President.
That's a good one.
Good morning, Mr. President.
Thank you. Appreciate.
Well done. You're welcome.
That's a good one. Mr. George, thank you very much. We appreciate you so much.
Mr. George, you have done a wonderful thing. So thank you. We appreciate
My secretary.
I agree, sir. I agree, sir.
Well done. Kudos.
Well done.
Yeah, George made a good home run on this, and
I'm
I
telling
sincerely
you.
enjoy. And I sincerely enjoy
marvelous.
that. I think since he said this is the second part, I am looking forward to the next part. So when are we looking forward? Because there were a lot of questions. But it's all interrelated questions. So I think that let's leave out a lot of people to ask questions. But I think that the third part will also be quite an interesting one, and I look forward to it.
Engineer Green, I think we will discuss about that within the executive cadre.
I'm making a suggestion.
Okay.
The suggestion is still in the air. It has not precipitated. When it precipitates, then the executive can take a. This is a freelance talk. It's a freelance talk, and I'm making a freelance appreciation.
Okay.
You know what happened when you go for an event where you are properly entertained.
Yes.
Without minding what is in your pocket, you will ask them, when are you guys visiting me to entertain you back?
I understand.
Meanwhile, you don't have money to entertain.
Mr. Green, take note. The CBN has warned about that spreading of money.
I did not say spreading of money. We entertain in various forms. I can entertain you by putting something in your pocket. Thank you very much, gentlemen and ladies. I think it was a nice Saturday and enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Agarese, Madam Arese, I recognize you.
Yeah, I think that.
Mrs. Nwosu, I recognize you. Thanks for joining. Well done, madam. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye. talk later.
Bye. Okay, see you later. Thank you.